Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and also welcome to my deck profile from YCS Providence, Rhode Island this past weekend. So as most people probably have seen me playing on stream on feature matches, I piloted Fiendsmith Ryzeal and ended at second place, unfortunately losing in finals to Charlie. Congratulations to Charlie winning YCS Providence, and myself ended at second place with the deck. However, I still think it was a pretty good weekend. It's a pretty good run. The deck definitely performed better than I expected. So I guess that's what this video is about. This video is gonna be a very long video. By the time I'm starting recording right now, I expected like an hour and a half at least, maybe up to 2 hours. If you want a more short, condensed version of just deck profile, like regular deck profiles, feel free to check my sponsor team's Team JNC Collectibles channel on YouTube. By the time this video get uploaded, that like condensed, short, about like 15-minute deck profile should also be up around the same time. So feel free to check that out. And then I guess I will show the deck before I do any other shoutouts or things. So as you see on the screen right now, this is the deck I played. It has a lot of like background information, stories, and then several things will be covering. So I guess we'll start with the shoutouts. Shout out to obviously my sponsor team JNC, pretty fantastic teams. Shout out to other other players who tested with me, specifically Peter Xiao from the Chinese Discord and Lucas Sacco and other friends from the testing circle in the other cord. Those Peter and Sacco were mainly the person whenever I came up with something about the entire alliance format, preparation for Providence, and then just even like in-engine, non-engine questions, I usually just send my feedbacks or ideas to those two and ask their opinions on it, and then maybe adjust it accordingly. Sacco did even send me the link to spreadsheets and just give me while I was actually even thinking about Maliss for a short period of time, he was just like teaching me some of the combos, logics, or that. So shout out to him. And then when I finally decided I was gonna play Fiendsmith Ryzeal, shout out to Joey Chow for making top 8 at YCS, I think Mexico City, I think a couple weekends ago. That was one of the few like post banless Fiendsmith Ryzeal top lists since the banless. We obviously had a lot of like Fiendsmith Ryzeal tops prior to the banless, but post banless, YCS Mexico was pretty much the only YCS or only events that happened, and there wasn't really that much information online for like to really work on. So shout out to Joey for making top 8 over there, and I did watch his profile and actually did like borrow some of the idea, or more so just like solidify what I was thinking about how I want to build a deck after watching Joey did it already, so I can like double down on some of the things I saw. And then if you are looking at this list on screen right now, this is more to be honest, I would say it's more a Fiendsmith deck than a Ryzeal deck. It's surprisingly saying this is less similar to the Ryzeal Fiendsmith before the banless. It's arguably closer to few decks like Fiendsmith or Fiendsmith Kashtira back in November, December, and then the pure Fiendsmith or like Fiendsmith Musketeer deck that won Bologna, and then at the beginning of Suda there was like the Fiendsmith Tempai deck, and obviously I borrowed some idea from specifically Joshua Schmidt, one of his video, including a Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck that did not play Ryzeal Cross and dual drive at all. And so obviously shout out to like the creator of these original ideas, Pack, Joshua Schmidt, well, big fan of Joshua Schmidt and his content. and then obviously his team, who also came up with like the original idea. So those are like a lot of like background information I kind of borrowed and then just did some research on while preparing for pretty much this deck list. So there's more background story, not directly related to the deck I played. So back when I think December, right after YCS Anaheim, I went back to China for vacation. It's actually the first time I got back since COVID, so it's about like 5 years almost. And that's also why like this YouTube channel, you haven't seen me really updating it quite often. I planned the trip around like quite early, like around September the previous year. So at the very beginning of the Yu-Gi-Oh season, I knew myself most likely not going to be able to make to World Points at the end of the season, because I'm taking a 3 months vacation in the middle of it. So it feels wrong for me to start like a new series, maybe even called like Road to World 2025, but pause it, have a 3 month break in the middle and just not grinding it. That feels wrong to do. And as well as that, like formats during those time feel kind of boring. Like doing the post nats, I don't think anyone really want to see more Snake Eyes content. There was even like people saying quitting the game or other things, right? And then after that, Belle is a deck I particularly not a fan of. Then after that, it was like post Rhoda, or just a lot of like things piling together. At Anaheim, I was originally gonna judge, since I'm going straight back to China after the event. I wasn't really playing, but my judge application didn't go through. I think Julia missed my email. My email is from Chinese. So little small things happened. I didn't get to judge, so I ended up playing. However, I didn't take the event that seriously. I mean, it's right before the vacation, so I wasn't too good. I don't think myself was familiar with either Maliss or Ryzeal at that moment to make any content on it. So like that's why there just wasn't any content to make for me, nor having a reason to make it on the channel to update anything for a while. And then after I came back, I was like, you know what, I'm good. I learned a lot from OCG from playing actually OCG Alliance format and Alliance Inside format. And I do have things I can make content for, but I want to do well. I want to have some results to start. YCS Las Vegas wasn't that lucky. YCS Houston, I like barely made it. I was 36x2 after Swiss, just barely missing the top 32. So this is like the first time since I came back from the vacation, I finally get a result almost like way better than I expected, but I'm pretty happy about it. So regarding to the trip to China, like I mentioned, I was there from December to like beginning of March. So shortly before the OCG ban list that limited X Ryzeal and then banned Abyss Dweller, all the way into the release of Orcus, then the release of OCG Alliance Inside, and then a little bit of like some tournaments. I pretty much left shortly before Justice Hunters. So I had that entire Alliance format played in OCG, and I knew a lot of like how the new Maliss, how March Hare and Star Ryzeal really impacting to the two existing strategies, and then how some non-engines reacting to a lot of cards, which I will go over those once I get to the specific deck list, like about like a lot of card choices, because they are reflected in the list I play. So let's talk about a little bit TCG format. Right now, Alliance format inside, or Alliance Inside format, we know it's a very, very hand trap format, and then people probably also expect it to be a very, very heavy hand trap format. Because Maliss, you need specific hand traps. You need like specifically some combination of Mulcharmies, maybe a Lancea plus something, or just pair up well with other generic hand traps to even have a chance going second. And that was the same case as OCG. I was playing Pure Ryzeal back then in OCG. In case anyone didn't know, OCG had Fiendsmith severely limited with one engraver, one tracked, And Necrocrypt is also missing because that's a TCG exclusive. They do have Fusion Lacrima. That resulted Fiendsmith variant decks are completely different. It's at most a small sub-engine in the form of like White Forest or Life Twins. It can never be a main engine or even like a really functional engine to a lot of decks. Over there, making a Caesar is a lot tougher without Necrocrypt. I have to specifically resolve sequence to fuse into the Fusion Lacrima. They still have that to make a Caesar. However, resolving sequence is also one of the hardest things to do in the game. Everyone will stop that. So making Caesar is naturally hard. And as well as missing Necrocrypt means making Chaos Angel, making a Lying Dark Chaos Angel is also nearly impossible. So the entire time in OCG, the OCG Alliance format was just Pure Ryzeal and Ignis Maliss, which is similar in some degrees until to TCG until we got the recent TCG ban list that significantly hit those two decks differently than OCG. That resulted the format. I was playing Pure Ryzeal for a while, and because I played it while I was in OCG, that's the deck I was most familiar with, most comfortable with, and that's also the deck I played after coming back to TCG, like during the late Suda time, pre-ban list. I played both YCS Vegas and YCS Houston with Pure Ryzeal. I had fun with it, but then the ban list hits. Now, Pure Ryzeal had to rely on Tachyons, or more Tachyons in the form of like Ascension, and there's the basic logic different in here in TCG and OCG. OCG has Max C, so a lot of things have to be involved around Max C, where TCG doesn't. So what's the equivalent of OCG Max C's in TCG is almost Droll and Lockbird. That's like a big basic logic here in TCG. The downside, Droll and Lockbird have contrast to Max C. Droll and Lockbird has very horrible synergy with Mulcharmies, and currently it sucks against Maliss. So I cannot play. It's not ideal to play too many chummies with Droll in the main. They really functions not well together, and that's what I found the issue of the past couple TCG tournaments I played, as well as in the current format. The amount of chummies required in the deck are pretty high due to Maliss and due to not having Max E here. But so I didn't main Droll at the end, but I was expecting some people consider the same thing, but also some other people just say, oh, we're gonna double down. We're just gonna actually main all the chummies and Droll, saying hopefully we drew the right non-engine against the right matchup and we fun, because there are still like Pure Ryzeal and Mitsu Ryzeal existing here that require the Droll and Lockbird to combat against. Right, so I was having fun playing Pure Ryzeal game ones when there's statistically less Drolls in the main deck. But post-siding, it was a very tougher time to hopefully I drew the opening, not breaking first of all, and then resolving my searches under Droll. And it was not fun. My win rate game one was very high. My win rate post-siding is very low on the other hand. So at Pure Ryzeal, I just ended like dropping it. I do really love Star Ryzeal as a card, because it really give Pure Ryzeal or Ryzeal variants another completely different layer of ways to combo and interruption. But at the end, I just couldn't. So I was looking for different decks to play for our Alliance Inside. And at the very beginning, it came across to me was live Twin Fiendsmith. I wasn't the one thinking about it. It was just one of our friend who was like kind of quit for a few months, coming back to the game, saying, oh, he want to pick up live Twin Fiendsmith, and then he already had the Fiendsmith cards before he quit. He just need to pick up all the live Twin cards, and he's good to play. He want to try and see how good the deck is. So asked me and other buddies in the court to just kind of help him building a list for it. So I was like, you know what, might as well. Let me look into it. It's one of the new deck, right? Live Twin Fiendsmith is different than it was in OCG. Because like I mentioned earlier, Fiendsmith's engine, it was severely hurt in OCG. You have to play pretty much a live tune deck with a smaller Fiendsmith sub-engine. However, here we have a way more completed Fiendsmith engine. The only thing missing is the Fusion Lacrima, but only missing that is completely fine. So I was thinking, okay, what if we here just build a, instead of live twin Fiendsmiths, but Fiendsmith's live twin deck? Well, the other way around. So instead of play the deck more like a live twin deck, we can play the deck like more like a Fiendsmith deck because we have the ability to do it here in TCG. So that was my approach to start live twin Fiendsmiths. Let's just say it was fine for a lot of time because Fiendsmith's engine are a bit more powerful to play here. But I went into a situation where whenever I open a normal summon live twin monster, either the blue or the red one, plus Fiendsmith, originally in OCG I always like normal summon the live twin, try to get the board bigger, right? But here it's like, oh, you get Fuwa on the live twin. Well, you couldn't do anything afterwards. There's no good thing to make. There's like you are minimum giving opponent two, maybe even 3 draws to even have something. However, if I open with Fiendsmith, I can always go into Requiem, into Lacrima. Either they Fuwa on the Sum of Lurie, I just make a Requiem, let them upstart pass, and then set up trap next turn with follow up, or they Fuwa me on the effective Requiem, so I just summon Lacrima, mill trap, and do similar things, while not really giving them good draws. So it results me opening Fiendsmith is actually better playing into hand traps. Well, specifically Fuwa. So at the end, I would just like not normal summoning a live twin if I open Tractor Engraver. But then because the live twin monster have limitations, saying they only get their bonus like on summon effect if there's no other monster on the field. So whenever I start with Fiendsmith expecting more like to dodge hand trap better, my live twin engine was just kinda dead. They are not functioning as well as they should be. That drew me a conclusion really quick. Was like, why was I normal summoning live twins? What's the benefit of playing live twins? Like the deck completely live twin Fiendsmith almost completely ignore Droll, even want to self Droll to go against Fuwa. So that's the good point. That's the good sell point. It has a relatively smaller engine even with Fiendsmith, so not drawing any engines can still leading to a Fiendsmith combo as long as I play Moon. And it has naturally a high capacity of hand traps to have as many hand traps as I can. So those are the advantage for live twin Fiendsmith. The downside is, why am I normal summoning these shitty live twin cards when there are clearly some better normal summons in the card pool that I can choose, right? So that results in me go back to Ryzeal Fiendsmith. Ice is still just one of the best normal summons in the game. Quote from Joshua Schmidt back in the past, I think it was like a Ryzeal Bestial Fiendsmith deck, where he said it's a good recipe to just combine Fiendsmith with Bestials, which is both a body and an interruption, as well as Ice or Ice Ryzeal, specifically the Ryzeal engine, a good normal summon, and build a deck like that. If you put all those things together, it's already a good deck. You just have to change some of the details. That's like one of his deck profile, I think at the beginning of February, if I remember correct, that I have pretty... it taught me a lot about how really the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck really works. Well, a version of it, that how it works. And I'm kind of just borrowing that. I'm just playing Fiendsmith cards with Ryzeal cards as good normal summons. Unfortunately, cannot really play many Bestials, since Bestials are not good hand traps in the current Alliance format when there's so many Maliss around. So my Bestials are, unfortunately, if you see it, they're in the side instead. they are there just more so, what if I queuing to people who's thinking the same thing, playing the same similar deck, so I have bestials for their Fiendsmiths, which were bestials known good at it. So that drew me like a very early draft of me telling myself, okay, like I think Fiendsmith Ryzeal in a deck is a potential pick for my YCS Providence. So let me break down the format. Let me pull out the logic of behind it, why it led to this way, right? So in OCG, the biggest driving force is Max C, obviously. In TCG, we don't have that. So the biggest driving force in people's non-engine, or at least in the current or past formats, or Mulcharmies foils, Droll and Lockbird, and Artifact Lancea. You pretty much see those cards being played in every single human being's list, either meaning order side. And then, so out of the entire format, out of all the possible decks I can play, I didn't want to get shit on by, or too much by either or by any of the three. So be specific. I don't think live Twin Fiendsmith is optional because it loses way too hard to Fuwa, despite it's okay against Droll and Lancea. I don't want to play like the old Maliss, because the old Maliss lose to Lancea a bit too much. So in order to play Maliss, I guess every single one who is playing Maliss have to also think about how to combat with Lancea, either playing other engine pieces, more copies of the newer cards that's good against Lancea, or just some other ways of form in different form, right? And I don't want to play decks that loses too hard to Droll. Droll can be annoying against Ryzeal Fiendsmith that have an open run, but generally speaking, it's okay compared to like if I play Pure Ryzeal, Ascension into Tachyon, get Drolled. Oh fuck, that's probably the game. And then Mitsurai unfortunately fell into this category. Mitsurai is also one of the newer decks, like fresh in Alliance format. It's also one of the decks that I have absolutely no experience with, or not like anyone have, because the Mitsu cards are TCG exclusives, and then the more important Mitsu cards are all the newer ones. So no one really have experience with these cards, nor knowing how these will really translate in formats, because we also don't have any datas prior, like regional datas or any big event datas prior to YCS Providence. So Mitsurai at the end, it was just like, I didn't want to risk it. I'm not familiar with those cards. I'm not familiar with how these cards, the Mitsu cards specifically, will react to the whole format, and I don't know how much people will be hating on Mitsu. So I unfortunately give up on that one. Despite post-event now, I think that's potentially one of the big decks that I sort of missed at some level that I probably should give more attention to now. But prior to the event, I wasn't treated as that real of a deck, as one of my options to play. I'm aware I have to play against it because it's, even it's not good, it's popular. And then a few other like even shittier decks, or sorry to offend whoever is playing it, but in my opinion, like the less competitive decks, like Y Forest get hurt by Droll too much. Like Blue Eyes variants sometimes could get hurt by Droll a bit too much. Also, like, just it's Blue Eyes. And then I think Water is also just like one of the deck I'm, especially after the ban list, I'm not a fan of it. Losing Bahamut and Dweller, not be able to detach Dragoon easily, and also now having to Mooling Glacier, which means it's awkward going into the chummies, and as well as like Droll is naturally more a problem now, other things. So at the end, it actually leave me with two choices. I gave up Mitsurai because of this Droll issue, because it's unfamiliar, the issue. The other two decks left were Maliss or Ryzeal Fiendsmith. Maliss was actually the one I started to work on, because it is new. It's never bad to just like learn how TCG Maliss is. The best way to beat it is at least you play it, right? So is you more familiarize with it. So at the beginning, I gave my Maliss a couple of things I want to achieve. I want to have as many hand traps as possible, so I have an edge in the Maliss mirror. Because when I was playing OCG, testing Alliance, testing Maliss in Alliance format, I couldn't find myself winning in a mirror against Maliss, against even myself. Because naturally, Maliss is capped around like 16, 17 hand traps. There was Maxi over there, so you need to have as many callback and cross out for Maxis as Maliss cannot and doesn't really want to get Maxi ever. It doesn't even apply to some of the Mulcharmies here. And then because you have to run callback cross out, those cards taking spaces out of the non-engines, which decrease the cap of how many non-engines you can run, which is actually a phenomenal situation in OCG. If you are more familiar with OCG, not gonna lie, the past couple of formats in OCG, the decks that was usually the best were the ones that's able to not run callback or cross out or both, and have those replaced with more non-engines to have an edge. Maliss is not one of them. That's why my deck in OCG was Pure Ryzeal, because Pure Ryzeal could do that. It doesn't lose to any Maxis. Might have a little bit of Droll problem, but no one was playing Droll with Maxi in their deck. So that's why like that. And then Maliss here still have similar problems. You actually, funny to say, you can just side the callback and not play cross out as a Maliss, because Maliss here not really specifically losing to any of the main deck hand traps, right? Not many people were maining Mouse. Fuwa and Perulia, you have good ways to play against. You have hands that just auto win against those hand traps, and then the rest of generic hand traps, you kind of just ignore it, since no one's also maining Lancea either. So Maliss is actually one of the deck that here, surprisingly, can just run none of like callback crossout in the main deck and have those becomes non-engine spots. So I did build a Maliss testing against friends. I think at one point my Maliss deck out of 40 cards can have 20 to 21 hand traps. In theory, right? If I just want minimum engine of everything and have the rest filled with hand traps, it's possible. Let's just say those were my most miserable 2 days of testing I ever had in my whole career. I hated Maliss. Even before and after testing, I still hate the deck. Let's just say with 21 hand traps, yeah, I was winning, I guess, some games that I shouldn't be, going second, but more often I'm just passing going first. Maliss do have a big consistency problem with less engine, with more engine spaces moved into like hand traps. That problem gets more severe, and also because of those, I had a situation where I do draw a lot of engine, but I was going second. Then I found out all my engine together cannot be a single detonator with a lot of materials, and that's like, well, yeah, I didn't draw an imperm as well, my hand traps, and I used like, even like there has been games where like, oh, I started a game with like Perulia and Fuwa, my opponent, right? He made a detonator, raw draw the field spell, that's all he has was like an aggregator underneath it. My turn, I have like 7 cards in your hand. I couldn't deal with a detonator because I didn't know my imperm. So there are situations like those. I didn't have fun with Maliss, and then I asked few of the people like Sacco, like other like Shipper, like and like other groups in like Sacco's testing group about Maliss, and I saw their list. I saw the sample list they sent out. Their engine count is around like 17, 18 at most, which essentially means they probably move like another set of hand trap away from the main deck for some more combo pieces, either starters or extenders. At that point, they were okay they have decent amount of consistency to combo. However, that's not the number I want. Like 17, 18 hand traps is almost like not feeling enough in the main deck because the decks naturally can play into so many hand traps now, right? Not just Maliss, but also like a lot of other decks, Mitsu Ride, Fiendsmith Ride, both of them. So I gave up after 2 days. I will say I had a horrible nights. I had problems dealing with both Detonator and sometimes occasionally Caesar from Fiendsmith's variant decks. So I just gave it up. I couldn't kindle it. That knocked out one of the last options for me. So I literally knocked out every other decks in the whole format, and this is the one you're seeing on the screen. The one I played is the last deck I think I could be playing in this event. I thought a lot of people will be thinking the similar thing, so this is probably still going to be a relatively like third or fourth popular decks in the whole room. Turned out it was completely different. When I was like, I had 2 run by because of the UDS Belle. I was walking around like tables, top tables, just to see, give a vague feeling of how the format is, right? Of how people are playing. Obviously, I saw a lot of Maliss, but I'm surprised to see way more Mitsu Ryzeal than I expected, and way less Fiendsmith decks than I expected. I think according to a lot of people, like Maliss probably going to be the most popular. Then the second one is actually Mitsu Ryzeal. Third is like Pure Ryzeal. And Fiendsmith Ryzeal is not even in their radar at all. A lot of people even told me like the deck is just unplayable. Where myself on the other end thinking this is the only deck that's playable to me. So that's the funny situation. That's like, I guess my prediction went horribly wrong, but it worked out well at the end. Maybe that's the situation. So I guess after I talked about a little like the format and how I ended with choosing the deck and how surprisingly, coincidentally, things worked well like that, I'll quickly go through the deck list, just like a regular deck profile. So the first row you see there are 10 Fiendsmith cards. It's more a Fiendsmith deck than a Ryzeal deck. So there's naturally actually more Fiendsmith cards, as more a compensate of just losing starters from Ryzeal from the balance. There are 3 Engravers, standard, Lurie, standard, Paradise standard, those are standard. Then there's 3 Tracked and 2 Lacrima. Those are, the number of those are not standard in my opinion. I did borrow some idea. I did look at like the topping list from YCS Mexico. Despite its pre-alliance format, there's Enzo topped with Beasteel Fiendsmith, and then Joey topped with Beasteel Ryzeal Fiendsmith. And they were both running 3 Tracked. Maybe more. Enzo was even playing more pure, like it's a Beasteel Fiendsmith deck, right? So Lacrima was even a 3 of in his deck. He was even running a small world just to upper the number of starters. So multiple Lacrima is actually fine. I mean, normal seeing it is actually not a terrible thing. Like a lot of people saying, oh, Lacrima Lurie are bricks. They're only bricks if I draw too many of these essentially normal summons. Then the second and third copy are bricks. The true breaking the deck from the Fiendsmith engine is only just Paradise, but it's Paradise, you have to run it. Lurie Lacrima is honestly not. They're just like worse starters, but they are still starters. And because this is ultimately a Fiendsmith, a Ryzeal version of the deck, I need level 4s to make dual drive. There are hands where, like, hypothetically speaking, I opened a Lacrima and Tracked and like a level 4. If I only running 1 Lacrima, then I have to Track into Lurie out the Lacrima for my hand to get enough materials for dual drive. Then like to normal summon Chummy afterwards. But if I do have a Lacrima in the deck, I can just summon my second Lacrima in the deck and then normal summon the first one in my hand and still make a dual drive that way, even I don't have any level 4s. So having more level 4 in the deck is definitely not a bad thing. Lacrima is like, it's an okay starter. And then there's just the Ryzeal cards. There are only total of 8 Ryzeal cards in the deck. It's just 3, 2, 2, 1. No, 2, 2, 2, 1. 7 Ryzeal monster plus a bonfire. 8 monsters, that's it. Node is like obviously the relatively worst card, but it's a must because it's the whole Ryzeal search chain. You see, if you are seeing the screen, I am not maining deck Ryzeal Cross. We'll get that in a minute after go through everything else. And then this is the only amount of Ryzeal I need, is also the only amount of Ryzeal I can have. Star Ryzeal doesn't work well with decks like this. I don't want to get rank 4 locked early whenever I play this version of deck, especially when it's more a Fiendsmith deck now. So Ryzeal monsters, or Ryzeal cards in general, I have nearly the minimum amount. And then just like callback cross out, they could ideally becoming more hand traps in my main deck. But I was like, I have enough. There's still 20 hand trap slots in my whole deck, as you will see in a minute. So and at the end just say, oh, I still need callback and cross out for specifically other people's Fuwa on my Requiem or Ice. And then cross out more often is other people's imperm on my ending board in their turn, which has happened a lot. And the rest of half of the deck are just hand traps. I have 3 Fuwa, 2 Prulia, 2 Meows. These are the 3-2-2 Mulcharmies ratio. I guess I don't see anyone else playing. I've heard people assuming you just have like 6, like 3 Prulia, 3 Fuwa rolls, or more so like the standard ratio to a lot of people. That's also what I started at the beginning. I had 3 Fuwa, 3 Prulia, and then more Meows in the side instead. But then I ran into a funny realization that was different than OCG. Back when I was in OCG, because the OCG balance is different, Maliss had 3 Rabbit, 3 Dormouse, 3 Underground, and 1 Allure. Which means they have naturally more normal summons in their deck in the form of Rabbit and Dormouse. And they have less cards that's good against Prulia. While I was running Prulia here, I ran into my Maliss friends who I tested at my locals. I had games where I Prulia in draw phase. I actually have both Prulia and Fuwa in hand. I Prulia in draw phase. My opponent goes Allure, banish Chessie, and drew into Underground with another name for Chessie. So my Prulia drew me absolutely 0 cards out of the entire turn. And my Fuwa, as I will say, Fuwa is not even that great a hand trap against Maliss. Because they have an easy way, just make 3 body together into ransom, grabbing Mira. That's already a pretty solid pivot board, giving up only 1 draw to Fuwa against Fuwa. So funny to say, back when I was playing OCG, I wasn't even maxing Fuwa. I was playing 2 Maxi, 2 Fuwa, and 3 Prulia while I was in OCG Alliance format. Because they had more normal summons from Maliss, and they had more Pure Ryzeal in the format. And that's the number of allures, or actually just the difference that resulted this. Here, I agree. A lot of the pro player Maliss have cut or reduced the number of allures in their deck and replaced with other things that could be potentially more under Prulia. However, this is like a relatively new event. We don't know the data. I cannot be just only preparing against like the pro player choices and not respecting all of the Maliss player agree on giving up Allure, right? Which I actually did end with playing into few Maliss that does have Allure in their deck. And whenever that happens, my Prulia just like not even existing in my hand. So at the end, I was like telling this to my friends, saying, because there are too many allures, because there are people going to play 3 allures in their Maliss, I think Prulia is not as good into Maliss. So the first conclusion to that was like, what about we switch to still 6 Chummies, be 3 Prulia, 3 Meows. But then it's like, okay, then if we queue into Ryzeal variant deck that's not Fiendsmith, seems like all 6 of them just deck cards now, right? Meows is especially dead, and Fuwa is like most drawing you 1 or 2 card. And we know Mitsurai is gonna be sorta somewhat popular. Wasn't expecting to be as popular as Maliss at the end. So at the end I was like, you know what, we just go with 3-2-2. That way, we don't have to play the third Perulia. We had the third Meows in the side just to pump up number of post siding at the beginning. And then, so 3-2-2 probably just have the best coverage in TCG in the whole format. I expected, like, because TCG didn't hit Fiendsmith, so I expect people playing more Fiendsmith variant decks. So I was like, we still need us 3 Fuwa, as many of them, to have an edge for those. So it was wrong with 3-2-2 for the Chummies. That's the idea of it. So that part, Anders just become 3-2-2. But originally the third Meows was actually existed in the side, which we'll get to that very, very quick. And then the other hand traps like Ash, Valor, Imperm, or Stender, we don't have to talk about it. Nib had... Okay, actually no. Valor wasn't that Stender, because Maliss people have Impulse, right? So they're less incentivized to play Valor, which can conflict with Impulse. And then I had a conversation with a few of my other local friends. They were debating between which hand traps was better between Valor and Belle. Because it seems like they are focusing more, they want to have more focus on Maliss. So Belle went into their radar saying like, maybe this is just a better hand trap to run in their deck, either main or side, wherever it can be. So they asked me which one I think is better between Belle and Valor. In their opinion, Belle was better, right? So I look at their opinions, I look at my deck list, and I answered with, you know what? I kind of don't need to figure out the answer of this. Because I have spaces to just run both, like all of them. So I was just playing 2 Belle and 3 Valor, just, in my opinion, a maximum number of those. Why I say maximum number but only saying 2 Bells? This also applied to Nib. Like these 2 slots used to be, I think, 3 Nib and then I think the Cross. But I kept running into a situation where, Nib is a hand trap that really require you pair up with another hand trap. But I was pairing up a Nib with another Nib, so they didn't pair. And there has been a general rule in my Yu-Gi-Oh career where if I play something at 3, I will be expecting to see a pair of them out of the 3 quite often during the whole day or whole weekend of tournaments, right? But if I play something at 2, the odds of seeing both of them are significantly lower. At that point, I'm expected to never or nearly never seeing both of them, or at most once throughout the entire tournament, which reducing the chance of me seeing like that duplicates. That applied to both Nib and Belle. They are both hard once per turn hand trap. They both require to be paired with something else. And they are like functionally just more hand trap in terms of like quantity instead of the quality. We already kind of running as many high quality hand trap as possible. So after that, it's just more a quality thing. To be honest, as long as I draw hand trap going second, it almost fine. It doesn't even matter which one specifically it is, because I'm playing a game where I just overwhelm my opponent with as many hand traps as I can have. However, despite that, why is Ash still like a 3-of in the deck despite it falling to the same clause, right, being hard once per turn? You see, what's very good against Fiendsmith? What's very good against Requiem? A Fuwa resolve. So prevent that, I need Ash Blossom. I need as many Fuwa answers as possible. That's also why I'm running Crossout and Call By. Which, by that logic, I have to see Ash as much as possible. Despite Ash, in my opinion, is kind of just a hand trap. Ash is not that good at hand trap, to be honest, in my opinion. It's only there because it has the purpose of, like, as a call by on the Fuwa, almost. So that's why Ash is still a 3-of at the end. But that gave me, like, 20, or used to be 19, and then now 20 hand traps. And while I was trying to fit, like, the 2 Belle into the deck, I had a Cross in the main, so I was like, what can I really cut from the whole deck, right? After a little bit more testing and discussion with friends, I landed my eyes on Ryzeal Cross. See, this is a Fiendsmith deck, like I mentioned a couple times already. This is not a Ryzeal deck. The purpose of dual driving the deck is just to bridge my Fiendsmith with like a Lacrima plus maybe like a normal summon Chummy into the dual drive so I can access my Ryzeal this way. More often, my dual drive is either not resolving or it has resolved, but then this Ryzeal Cross is like not really protecting myself from anything. I'm way beyond 5 summons against Nib. I'm like way past like Fuwa or Ash checkpoints. And then I'm not able to set up early because more often I have to go into Fiendsmith to combo without being rank 4 locked. And if I grab Ryzeal Cross at the end, at most it's just like another layer of interruption in form of a monster in the game. That trade away a material, which usually means one less pop on detonator, to be honest. So at the end, it's like it doesn't even give me additional interruption. It make one interruption better in some form. And the recycle effect is also not as real in the deck, because first of all, there's way less Ryzeal cards existing. Second of all, because there's even less in this deck, I often cannot recycle with Cross because I need the one of the two being a dual drive in the graveyard for my Eclipse Twin to even be alive, and I have no other Ryzeal cards to even shuffle. So very often I either just draw opening it, brick with it, thinking why couldn't this be another useful card like a hand trap or an engine, or I grabbed it and was just not needed to win. Or just and it was not really not doing anything. It's more a bonus than necessity. So I was like, you know what? This can just be moved into the side. If we never play it in the main, we'll never brick with a game 1, right? And like if we do open a game 2 in our opening hand, at least we know we're going first. We have less deck cards. We have at most 1 Chummies in the deck, if that's the case. So with these amount of characteristics, I think Ryzeal Cross can be sided instead. So that's how I end with like cutting the Cross from my main deck, be able to fit the bells, and then move the Cross into the side and be still completely fine. If you watch my feature matches, a lot of game 1s, I go into dual drive and search only Ryzeal monsters because I don't have Cross in the deck. And when I was having Cross in my main deck, going second against a lot of like those combo heavy decks, I was already siding out Cross along with Paradise to just reduce like dead draws. So there are other games where like even it's post siding, I still don't have Cross in my deck. I wouldn't have it even I was maining it. So this is just pretty much the main deck. At the end, I'm very satisfied. It is like I magically find a way to just include the 20 hand traps in my deck, which is 50% of my deck. And I think this is actually just my edge against Maliss. And funny to say, I will say Maliss has a good advantage against Maliss, which is different than previous format. Previous format, especially pre-Banless, there was a triangle in the TCG format, like a lot of people probably know. It's Fiendsmith Ryzeal good against Pure Ryzeal, and Pure Ryzeal good against Maliss, and Maliss good against Fiendsmith Ryzeal. It's like a fire, water, grass triangle. But I guess what a lot of people didn't know or kind of missed about is why this is happening. Fiendsmith Ryzeal is good against Pure, because Fiendsmith's Engraver by itself can go into a Chaos Angel without Detonator be able to pop anything at all. And this Chaos Angel is like Pure like Chaos Angel can just trade away Detonator super favorably. And like it's a very good trade. And setting up Fiendsmith's Paradise was very hard for Ryzeals to make Xyz against it. Pre-balance, they have to make their first Xyz being a Dweller, which then they are very vulnerable to other hand traps on the way to their second Xyz. Post-balance, well, there's not even a Dweller left in the game to check Paradise. So that was like the reason for why Fiendsmith was very good against Pure. And then Pure was good against Maliss, because Pure naturally, like Maliss have a big detonator problems. That's like a lot of people probably know at this point. And what's Pure Ryzeal very good at it? Not just detonator, but multiple detonators. Maybe Maliss can draw an out to the first detonator, but there might be a second detonator coming in different forms, either in the graveyard, getting revived by either plugging or twins, or just like some people even in the form of like Ryzeal Plasma Hold to like quick Xyz another second one in their turn. Those are all possible things. And Maliss cannot deal an overall amount of detonators. So that's why this is the relationship. And also, Pure Ryzeal is the one that abuse 7th Tachyon the best and the most. So it makes sense they naturally have at least a Lancea in the deck for them to just search anytime they can. And searching Lancea with a detonator alone is a death sentence to Maliss. So this is why this side of triangle is this kind of relationship. And then why Maliss was good against Fiendsmith's Ryzeal was because Maliss pre-all-in was the deck that runs a crazy amount of Bestial and be fine. Because Bestials are naturally helping Maliss combo. Right? They are offensively a good extender whenever Maliss cards get hand trapped. And defensively, they are broken hand traps against what? Fiendsmith cards. If the Fiendsmith cards is not really operating in the Fiendsmith Ryzeal cards, then it's just a shitty Ryzeal deck that couldn't even put out that many detonators. And the Bestials, or specifically Lubellion, is very good at outing this one detonator left. So that's why the relationship of this triangle is like this. However, things have changed. Maliss now, in my opinion, is actually, well, they have the option to be good against Fiendsmiths, but they are not right now. Why? Because they cut as many Bestials as they can. Some people may still have like 1-1 Mag Druids in their main or in their side. Maybe one more additional Boldrake, but that's about it. No one's really maining a crazy amount of, like, as you see back then, A Bestials, including A Bestials plus Lubellion, that kind of deck. A Bestial deck. No one's doing that. They are horrible cards against Maliss Mirror. And without the help of those cards, some people not even playing any Bestial in their Maliss main deck, Maliss actually don't really have an edge against Fiendsmiths anymore. They have to combo to really stop Fiendsmiths. They don't have a good non-engine that functions also an extender against Fiendsmiths. However, Fiendsmith decks are naturally capable of running a crazy amount of hand traps for Maliss. Arguably the highest capacity of hand traps against Maliss. And what's better in addition to those is like Fiendsmith decks doesn't need to draw their engine. They can just draw 5 hand traps. Okay, I threw a nib on my board. Next turn, normal summoning or anything. Moon, my engine here. My engine's online now. They don't even need to draw an engine cards. They can just do 5 hand traps to you and actually be fine. Maliss couldn't do that. You see, Maliss, for Maliss to combat in their mirror, they obviously want to draw enough hand traps in the mirror, enough for the opponent to not play or play less, right? But then they fall into a situation where they threw like 3, maybe even 4 hand traps. Now their engine is super weak because those hand traps doesn't connect to their engine. And their engine left can easily be stopped by the opponent's hand trap. Which now you start going to a grind fest of whoever find a way to actually combo. Where in those kind of grind games, Fiendsmith is way better. So this is why I will arguably say, I just thought this is should be a common thing for a lot of people to realize. So I was expecting this actually be like the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck or Fiendsmith, like all other Fiendsmith variant decks, be almost the 3rd most popular, maybe even a driving force of the format. However, I guess I predicted that part pretty wrong. Apparently not many people were thinking. Or maybe they were thinking similar things, but they were not acting like that in the YCS. I was apparently the only Ryzeal Fiendsmith deck in the entire top 32. And so that's how it is. Having 20 hand traps is definitely a good edge against Maliss when they don't even have Bestials. So I guess let me finish the rest of the deck, then we can talk about a little bit more. The extra deck is relatively fairly standard. I sort it in the way of engines similar as the main deck instead of the traditional based on the card type. So the first 5 are the Ryzeal extras, Detonator, Dual Drive, Twins, Aggregator, and Exciton. I use them all of them. I don't think it's possible to not play Exciton anymore. There are situations where I just want my X to get 1 extra lifing bodies in the graveyard, which not having Exciton is not possible to do that. And quite often I expect them to clear the board and have an edge. And if this Exciton like lived or revived later by twins, this is actually a body for Requiem. And then the next 5 are the Fiendsmith links. 2 Requiem is absolutely needed because there are just games where first Requiem is sitting in the graveyard that I don't have enough recycle to put it back, and then I want to summon a second one for the turn after. And also, who knows, maybe potentially there's still people playing Unicorn, right? Like, getting sniped on my Detonator in this deck is absolutely fine, but losing all my Requiems to a Unicorn, that's probably a death sentence. Sequence, Agnem, Day, Moon, yeah, they're self-explanatory. The last 5 are like kind of some of the boss monster from the Fiendsmith package. Desiree, Princess, Caesar, Chaos Angel. Those 4 are the standard. What was I say? Necrocrypt, actually, I have played a game where I would just like Necrocrypt beat down because I, like, for example, got Nib, I couldn't end on anything else. And this Necrocrypt has been drawing me hand traps after I used my hand traps. I think there are games where I made a Necrocrypt, pitched the Engraver, drew me a Veiler. Then the next turn, I used this Veiler and I drew me a second Veiler off the Necrocrypt, which is pretty broken in a hand trap format. And then Caesar, on the other hand, Caesar surprisingly has the same like threat to a Maliss player compared, like, as much as a Detonator. It's so broken, like, I didn't even realize how broken it is until I actually played the deck and be like, hold on, Caesar plus hand trap can actually solo some Maliss people. And in order to do that, I just need like drawing like Lori plus 4 hand trap. I can win on spot with just Caesar trap, Caesar setting up the Paradise with 4 hand traps. That's how broken Caesar is. And knowing this is also coming in the YCS price card pack, which means Caesar will never get banned. So I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the cards I say they Konami should address it, but I guess they won't be for a while. And then Chaos Angel is obviously there because what if I play into Ryzeal, like Pure Ryzeal or the Ryzeal variants, right? So these are like the 14 were guaranteed here. The last flex spot is just SP. I think I've seen Joey play the second dual drive because he was playing Cross in the main and he actually want to be able to set up Cross to protect. I didn't see myself really need it. The dual drive came up, the second dual drive came up only when like I made my first one, didn't go through. Now I need a second one to make it the turn after, which can happen, but that's like way less often, to be honest. The other card who came up was Typhon. Typhon was actually my 16 card extra deck. And I was debating between Typhon and SP. I was thinking, okay, SP probably still better. A lot of the time I can do things with my Fiendsmith engine already, but in specific games where like I'm also playing against a Fiendsmith variant, which I thought would be happening, but didn't. In those situations, I will probably need this SP, or I want to have this SP against like removing their Fiendsmith cards. So I ended up just still choosing SP, despite at the end I didn't play against any Fiendsmith variant decks. So this SP maybe have never been summoned in the entire weekend of Rhode Island. That's possible. And there were actually moments where I could have summoned a Typhon, but I wasn't 100% sure if the Typhon will win me the game. Like, Typhon's a card that can be consistently summoned quite often, but wasn't consistently winning every time it being summoned. So I don't know. At the moment, I will still say I want to keep the SP just in case if I ever run into a situation I need it. But I can see myself, if anything, this is the only slot that can be changed. So that's the extra deck. Honestly, the extra deck fairly standard. And then the side deck is just a lot of the backup cards, right? I have this Cowboy for Time, which with a grindy game like Fiendsmith Ryzeal most likely can happen, which I think I did happen once or twice in the Cowboy for game in Game 3. Cross, like I mentioned, I moved it to the side after cutting it from the main deck, and then I only put it in whenever I go first. Or in some weird, if I queue into Rogue, which didn't happen, I might have to put in the main deck, post that even going second. That can happen, it just didn't. Then Lancea's, yeah, it's a Maliss format. Bestials, for the fact I could queue into Fiendsmith variant decks or just mirror people, whoever was thinking the same thing. It's possible. That didn't happen. I played out of the entire tournament, I will say, let me see. It was 9 rounds of Swiss, because I had 2 buys, plus 5 rounds of Top Cut. Out of 14 rounds, I played 4 Mitsurugi Ryzeal, plus 10 Maliss. And against Mitsu, I don't put in the Bestials. I think Crow, as you'll see in a second, Crow and Belle were doing better than Bestials. And obviously, I didn't put in any Bestial against Maliss. So out of the entire 14 rounds, I didn't side in any of these 2 Bestials. Because I didn't play into the matches that I need the Bestials. But I think they are still good. They're like, obviously, they have good synergy with Fiendsmith. They are bodies and interruptions against the right deck. I just didn't queue into the right deck. And then mentioning DD Crow, along with the Droll and Lockbird, these are my side or my preparations against Ryzeal variants. Well, the Drolls for the Ryzeal variants, including Pure Ryzeal, and then Crows for the Mitsu variants. I was playing Crow post-balance pre-alling, just saying, okay, Crow might be better against like even Fiendsmith variant decks, because Crow hits the Lurie, which Bestials cannot. They usually don't have any bodies when that happens. Crow can hit Paradise preemptively without putting a body on the board, along with like Belle and other things. And Crow, surprisingly, I faced into like the pre-alling Mitsu Ryzeal, and I was crowing their ritual spell. It actually hurts. So at the end, I was like, Crow is probably fine. Also, if Mitsu player like cost tribute a thing like prayers, I can just crow whatever they cost it, so that thing just won't even activate it. It's effectively become a second Ash or something. So that was my answer or my preparation to Mitsu. And then last but not least, but three strikes. For a long time, I was playing Thrust as my going first package. But this format is so diverse and every deck is losing to different things. I found myself needing 2, if not 3 different normal traps for a Thrust package. I'll need Sanctum for Lancea. I'll need DD Ground for Fiendsmith variants. And I will need either D-Barrier or Mischievous Gnomes for Mitsu or Ryzeal variant decks. And this is a format we need hand traps, so I couldn't, out of my best, finding 6 slots in my side for going first, along with the cross that I'm already siding going first, and I couldn't even side out that many things. So at the end, I was like, I only have 3 spots, 3 slots. 3 spots are good enough for siding patterns. So at the end, I just only have strikes. Strike arguably performed way better than I expected, because against Maliss, they can be like normal. They can be like set a Maliss trap, then normal summoning Rabbit or Dormouse call their effect. I can just strike it without worrying about anything. And because at that moment their normal trap cannot be responded, and I effectively not only negate the effect and also remove the body. So that's the sell point of strike. And also because we're in such a heavy hand trap format, no one really can care about removing back rolls anymore. Not many people is able to play Duster and Lightning Storm in their side and able to side them in. So striking the back row were very, very safe and very, very threatening throughout the tournament. I also did play against quite a few other people who are also on strikes post-siding. So that's that. After the tournament, I will say I'm pretty satisfied with the majority of the deck. I think there are only like tiny changes because Mitsu Rai wasn't calculated too perfectly for me, so I might want to add in more things for that matchup since it was more popular than I expected. But at the current moment, I don't even know what could be like tech cards against them specifically when going second, because at the end it's still Mitsu and Ryzeal, so better have cards that works on both. But I don't even know if there are good cards like that in the card pool existing. Might have to dig a little bit. So at the moment, I just know I probably need more thing against Mitsurai, but I don't know what they would be. So that's pretty much the whole deck list and a few changes I have made and I would made going forward. I guess I'll go over my siding pattern a little bit because I heard some people asking. Going first in general is actually pretty easy because there are 7 Chummies in the deck. So I just keep a copy of Fuwa, since that was my cross-out target. Get rid of the 6, and then there are 3 strikes going in, plus a cross. These are automatically going first cards. And then just depends on the matchup, right? If I play against Maliss, I put in 3 more Lanceas and side out 1 more thing. If I play against Ryzeal, I put a 3 Drolls and I side out something. That something is usually like a thing against Maliss will be Nib. Because whenever I finish my combo, I have cards on my board. This Nib is not guaranteed resolving due to them having Impulse on me. So I want to have less chance seeing Nib. I just want to see other things. And I guess against me too, I forgot. It could be anything, to be honest. I think against me too is also Nib. Because like the same reason, I don't want to tribute their big bodies and get their effects. And forcing them to like not forcing them to like never use the graveyard effect, so they forcing them to use the graveyard effect so they cannot revive after I nip them is not always working. So I guess it's also the nip coming out. And then there's like I guess in some of the mirror matches where like Fiendsmith decks or whenever other random decks were like some negations could not be weird or it can be easily dodged, like from Memento. I might side out like some of the negation cards for other cards that could be better. But you get the general siding. It's just siding out the chummies and then some like less useful hand traps going first. I don't ever touch my engine when I'm going first. And then going second is also pretty simple. There are some cards are nearly guaranteed coming out going second. Second Lacrima, Paradise, and Crossout. My Crossout in my eyes is just a thing against like people's imperm when they held it for my ending board or Fuwa specifically. Those are not the priority thing when I'm going second, so I can side it out. Cobalt, on the other hand, can serve as like a mini breaker in some matchup, or specifically against Maliss. If you call by their Y-binder when they GWC, they still have the option to bring it back, but it's negated. At that point, this Y-binder is like there's like they probably don't even want to bring the Y-binder back. They probably have to bring back something else, which effectively shuts down a lot of things from the opponent. Or sometimes I can just call by like the rabbit to guarantee MTP is never being accessed in my turn. That's another thing. So call by actually works as a mini breaker, which I do keep going second even against Maliss. Well, since the rest of my hand trap, besides these 3 become Lanceas against Maliss, the rest of the hand traps are not that good against Maliss anyway, so I just keep the call by. And then for other matchups, we like, whenever Meowth is not good against like maybe Pure Ryzeal, I just side these out and I put in things like Drolls, maybe Bestials or something like that. And there are games where like, I think Pure Ryzeal I even keep Paradise because Paradise is such a broken interruption that Pure Ryzeal have trouble to deal with. So that being that, so it's like some general, you get the general idea of siding. It's just going first, out the chummies, going second, out the bad cards or slightly worse cards against different matchups, as well as some like additional copies, like the less important part of my engine. So there's that siding pattern. It's very simple. I mean, I built a deck simple enough for the siding pattern to be simple as well. So I guess I'll go over some of the combos that some people may ask, which is actually like some funny thing. Let's say it this way. So there are actually some priorities of activating my searches whenever I go first. So let's just say I open a combination of 2 out of the 4, either in the form of like different form of engraver or tractor or copy of ice or copy that equal to ice, right? Whenever I open specifically so the general idea is Droll is not popular in people's main deck, but that doesn't mean when I can play around Droll I don't. I will still have to sequence my starters in the way that I get hurt by Droll the least, which whenever I open different form of starters, despite their functionally the same card, I still have to sequence them differently respecting Droll. So that's why you see, like, well, pretend this is a 2-card hand, just like 2 of whatever form. If I open, I guess the easier way is Engraver Ice. I will prefer to start with Ice, so I get the body and the Ryzeal follow-up, even they draw me here. If they draw me, I think I go Ice, will be X into a sword, keep the sword and D3 into a detonator. That's already fine with Engraver and Sorting Hand. If I start with Engraver, then I get the Tract and I get Drolled. Now this Tract is dead, and even when I do make a detonator with Ice, I don't have the Ryzeal follow-up. So this is like how I do if I open these two. If I open, like, I think Tract plus Ice, now it's different. Because now I can guarantee my Fiendsmith engine online against Droll. So I think it's fine to give up the Ryzeal follow-up in this to make sure both engine is alive. So I will Tract first if I open Tract Ice. So Tract to get the Lurie out, and then I get Droll. It's fine. I go Lurie into whatever Fiendsmith stuff I can get to. Then plus, then at the end I go normal Ice. Somehow anything make a detonator. Which is still good enough. I end with like these two, even against Droll, I end on like what? Detonator plus Caesar plus setting up traps, right? That's the ending board. That alone is enough to win game. I will be missing Ryzeal follow-ups, but I have all my Fiendsmith follow-ups in the graveyard. And worst case, I just find some 4s. That's my Ryzeal follow-ups again. And in situation where like I open Tract Bonfire, I will just, depends on my hand, figuring out which engine is more important in this if Droll happens. Because I can go Bonfire, get to Ice, and then they draw me, I just make a detonator with Ice. Or I can go Tract, if they draw me, I just on Caesar plus a Bonfire left. Can happen. If I do open both Engraver and Bonfire, well, if a Droll happens, at least one of the engines not working. So it really depends on the rest of my hand to see what I can do and what I should do. So that these are the general ideas in like how to combo with the starters, despite they're equal, like theoretically same cards, but still should be played differently because they are ultimately different, right? And these are, I guess, people like what you should be seeing in people's spreadsheets, but maybe not. But like what you should learn, I do learn a lot of these from like accessing to other people's spreadsheets, but you still have to combine everything in the spreadsheet together, analyzing them, learn the logics behind it to be good at everything, right? They probably tell you, oh, if you open Ice Engraver, what you should do, but if you don't know why it's being doing the way they did, you probably didn't. You probably just waste your money on the spreadsheet at the end, so you feel scammed. But especially at the end, I think they're good. They're good tools handed to you. You just have to utilizing them. And tools, textbooks don't come free. So I guess I'll show like one of the bigger hand I can do, which is actually specifically Ice, Engraver, and Tract. Let's just pretend this Bonfire is never here. All right. So in this hand, similar logic. It is an Ice plus Tract hand to start. So I will start with Tract. Get my Lurie. And then, well, on some of Lurie, this is already a checkpoint for Fuwa, but some people don't guarantee use it. If they do use it, obviously, well, I make a Requiem. Either pass on Requiem or pass with like giving up 2 more draws, make a detonator. Make a detonator this way is like giving them 2 draws, but 3 more interruptions. So sometimes it's worth it. Was while also grabbing my follow-up, right? Oh no, it actually will be 4 interruptions because it will be Ice into, actually, I'll even summon the X if I think I need to get an aggregator. So that will be like 4 mad detonator. But if nothing happens, I make a Requiem. Or no Fuwa happens yet doesn't mean no guarantee Fuwa. A guarantee no Fuwa in their hand, that doesn't equal. They could be holding Fuwa for the Requiem effect. So we kind of want to abuse that, if that's what they're doing, to normal summon Ice first. Call Ice effect. So this is like a second point where Fuwa can be used. right? There's a clearly chain happens that give Fuwa a draw, but if my opponent do Fuwa me here, I will be able to not give them any draw on the Requiem, because I can just go Ice 1, Fuwa 2, Requiem 3. Essentially, it will be 2 draws total, 1 from Ice, 1 from the Detonator, but meanwhile setting up both Paradise and Detonator. So this is the second point where they can Fuwa me, but they don't need to. Some people, if they know this, they'll actually not Fuwa here, because they know this thing, right? So they will expect you to be greedy and actually channeling to call the Requiem here. So it'll be channeling 1 Ice, channeling to Requiem. At that point, you get the Lacrima out. You clear the non-level 4 on the field, so your Ice can summon X to get additional search of X, which is viable. But if people actually good enough holding the Fuwa, which if they know how this works, they have the option to hold the Fuwa, right? Punish you being greedy. You can just also reverse psychological it. Be like, never mind, I'm not calling Requiem here. I can still get the search in the form of sword. This is what I do. Because I'm expecting later, like in the entire tournament, my opponents are good enough to know this is like what can happen, right? So I just summon sword grab the X. It's possible my X will never be able to get the search ever in the turn, but if my other things resolving, this search is like fine to give up. I don't even have that many Ryzeal cards in the deck to search, to be honest. So here now we have sword and Ice. Now we can safely call Requiem, because they did it in the last like chain links, and they can still Fuwa here. If they do, I summon the Lacrima, give them draw, make a Detonator. So it's still 2 draws and form Detonator plus Paradise, which is still fine. Right, and if the Fuwa never happens here, even on the Requiem, and we start resolving Lacrima, which means they don't have Fuwa. They're like, 100% they'll be used already. Like, at this point, starting this point, there's no Fuwa in the conversation anymore. So, if this has resolved, means we can actually get to the next stage where we... Also, because, like, a lot of the searches have been happening, right? So, there's no Drolls either. So, now the only thing we care is we should care Nib a little bit, but I kind of just don't. Because I feel like whenever they Nib, it's always fine. And then if they do, and then if we bypassing Droll, we bypassing Fuwa. After that, there's not many, like the plan should just be greedy. Time to be greedy. Time to make the board as oppressive as possible. So once we get to the ending board, we auto win as much as we can. All right. So I will here go with Mail Engraver. I know we have an engraver here. We're still gonna mail the engraver. You know why? And here, going to a sequence. This is how I made the board bigger. I have the option to go into dual drive early, but we'll be able to pivot back into it fine. So here I have 4 things, life in body in the graveyard, plus I never summon engraver. So I just call sequence. Sequence be able to fuse Desiree. Make sure to keep the Lacrima in the graveyard, because we will need it at some point. However, the other 3 bodies are fine. It's funny, if this sequence, if they were holding Imperm or Impulse until this sequence, we're still fine. Why? Because we have Attracting the Graveyard that's used earlier, and we have, this hand specifically has another engraver hand. So I can just easily bring back this engraver I milled that I never summoned, banish, tracked, fuse, sequence, engraver, and engraver in my hand, make a Desiree, then equip sequence on it, special X, make it either dual or Detonator. So Impulse and Imperm here on the sequence is also fine. But if this gets resolved, I'll make a Desiree. Leave the Lacrima here, we'll need it later. The other 3 can go back. Now Desiree has been summoned, now it's getting to the next stage, which is what can we do besides or in addition to Desiree. Ideally want to go into eventually Detonator in some way, and maybe if possible Caesar. So in order to make a Caesar, this is the line of using Agnum Day. Go make an Agnum Day, not call it Desiree. Agnum Day here, choose the Lacrima. Because if anything wrong happen, at least we have 2 force to make a dual drive. So it will be Lacrima here. Maybe also force out other things. And then this is where I going to finally my Necrocrip using the Lacrima equipped with Agnidate. So in theory, whatever you bring back is probably fine, because you're just gonna immediately turn it into a Necrocrip. But if anything wrong happened, like a randomly Ghost Ogre happened on this Agnidate or something, at least I get a level 4 back that I can use for dual drive. So now this going to a Necrocrip. And this is where we finally get to use the Engraver in hand. We get to pitch it, we have the option to search Tracked or Paradise, we just search Tracked. And because, well, technically within our engine, the Engraver is the only thing that can turn, that can give Necrocrip a draw, so we're just going to capitalize that as much as we can, and Necrocrip will draw me a card. Because of Engraver. So I didn't shuffle, that's why you see I draw the Lurie. I think when I turn off randomizing that, they will just all, whatever shuffle I just go on the top. So pretend this like hopefully be a non-engine, because I got a lot of engine out of my deck. And remember, we never summon Engraver. We can easily put Sequence back to the deck. We're never ending on Desiree in our own turn. So the Sequence like having no purpose leaving the graveyard. And here, oh, we have 2 6s. Can make a Caesar. And remember, we made Desiree. We kept Lacrima, Agnidate, and Desiree in the graveyard. So in their turn, this is an easy Lacrima into Agnum into Desiree for their turn. Now it's time to go back to play Ryzeal. We can finally lock ourselves into force. There are a couple of tricky things. Here, I will actually, instead of sending Eclipse Twins, set up Twins, I will send Excita. To have additional lifing body in the graveyard, eventually for the Desiree graveyard effect. And then, well, we're not going to be able to get the X Search effect ever, but I think we're fine, because not like I have that many even in the deck. Dual drive, attaching or not attaching, it doesn't matter. We're gonna get rid of it very soon. Dual drive, call search, detach from the dual drive, grab a node and sword. Remember, we never brought out sword with its own effect. We started the turn with ice into sword. So sword can just be special summoned here, which I will and summon the sword. And constantly remember, this is not a Ryzeal deck anymore. This is more a Fiendsmith deck. So not having a Ryzeal follow-up, to be honest, I'm fine with it. If I get to resolve everything, I don't think I care. I have enough things, enough follow-ups even in the Fiendsmith, in the form of Fiendsmith, that not having Ryzeal follow-ups, absolutely fine. And here I'm going to raw make the twins to get the twins available in the graveyard. Summon my node. Node, send the twins, revive the sword, play around bestial a little bit, even despite we have a Caesar, but why not, right? And then twins, don't use the effect. We cannot get rid of the 4s in the graveyard and put them on the board. We'll just go here, make a detonator, attach the Eclipse Twins. So this is our basic ending board. There's still more thing I can do in my opponent's turn. We have a Caesar, which already solos Maliss. We have a detonator with twins, which also already almost solo Maliss. And we have a Desiree that solos nearly everything else in the whole format anytime we want. So here I can just go past turn. And remember, I don't always like bring back my Desiree immediately. I like to hide it in the graveyard. Let's just say we start our turn with, oh, something happened. Like imagine this is an imperm on the detonator, right? Now we are forced to like reset the detonator by just blowing up itself. And then this detonator, well, the twins now can bring back the detonator and dual drive. And detonator in their turn, now it being summoned again, it can attach again. However, we're not going to attach Eclipse Twins. It's a good attach, but we have a better one if we need as much interruptions as we can. We can just attach the Desiree. and let's just say, well, I activate something random. They activate more cards. Now I can attach. Now I can like activate the detonator, detach the Desiree, or pop something on the field. And Desiree, because it got detached, it's the engraver search. Yeah, Desiree, because it got detached, can trigger. And there are enough lifing bodies. Remember, because I sent an Exeton of the X. This is like both enough force for what's called Eclipse Twins, but also a cost for Exciton. And once this Desiree has been used, let me see. Be used. Now it's time to bring back the Desiree. Because now we have Lacrima, Agnum, and Desiree available. So this is like one of the possible ending board. Now like Desiree still have a negate possible. Detonator probably still have couple pops available. Maybe already have pop a bit of things. And Caesar can also just like negate a lot of them, right? There's actually one more possible interruptions I just didn't show. Remember, we had an engraver earlier, well I shuffled it back already, that searched the tract on the summon of Necrocrypt, right? That gave me a draw. This tract actually doesn't need to be tracked. It can just be Paradise. Paradise actually have an on-field effect where if I control a 7 or higher lifing, well, let's just say that if I control Desiree, I juice the field. That's the Paradise effect, which is a lot easier for everyone to remember. So I can actually, instead of searching this tract, I just search a Paradise and have a set here. So whenever Caesar being maybe negated like an Imperm, Detonator being traded away, and maybe even use the attaching Desiree, detaching, and then my Desiree has revived and negated. If they are still alive, they still have gas left. I flip my Paradise in the back row that I searched turn 1 and blow up the whole field and keep the Desiree alone left. So this is like how much layer the deck can have if it actually get to combo. But remember, like I said, Caesar already almost solo Maliss. Detonator already almost solo Maliss. So just having some of them, not all, can already win you the game. And this ending board is what if everything has resolved. And I think, surprising to say, this ending board has as high as a ceiling as a Maliss can have. And it's enough to win. And compared different than Maliss, I have a lot of like different pieces in this board. And sometimes I can just get to like a quarter of it, like just Caesar plus hand traps might just win already enough to win the game. Sometimes Detonator plus hand traps, or Detonator plus Desiree, or Detonator plus Caesar is enough to win the game. I don't even have to get all of them in a form like Detonator, Desiree, Caesar, and Paradise. So yeah, this is like how Fiendsmith's deck works. I feel like a lot of the combo, because the deck's been around for at this point half year, all of the combos should be almost standard, and then you probably have already known it. But that's what I was trying to do. The matches, I've done that multiple times off stream. It just, whenever I was on stream, I was constantly hitting by not just Nib, but Nib Imperm, or Nib Imperm Impulse, or Nib Imperm Impulse Rabbit Hair, or just Magnum, right? Things like those. So I never, funny to say, on feature matches on the games, like it was shown to the world, I was actually behind in a lot of the games. And I was just constantly grinding and try to get like a gap so I can finally start snowballing with the Fiendsmith cards and come back from the game and just grinding there. Not gonna lie, I do like those games and I'm having fun with those games. But the thing I didn't calculate was how much energy drained from myself by grinding those games. Let's just say, out of the entire, like, 7 rounds day 1, I grinded out like that for at least 6, maybe 7 or 7 of them. And I was significantly more exhausted earlier than my usual performance. Usually, I started round 3. By like round 8, maybe even round 9, maybe not even at all, I will start feeling exhausted for day 1. But this time, because this format, this tournament was just so grindy, or because I barely ever get to auto win with my deck, I most likely have to grind out. My energy was, I felt exhausted by round 6, which is actually about my first like feature match you guys saw me on stage. That game 2 was completely winnable. I actually could just won on spot if I was able to like think a little bit more by not putting myself under Nib. I can easily clear the board, set up detonator within 4, and just win there. I just was like, you know what, I'm tired. I think he has only 1 card. What are the chances it's Nib, right? Let me just freestyle it. Oh, it's Nib. Well, that's the game. And then, well, now we kind of started game 3. Yeah, you know what? I'm going first. I'm being fine. Like, I can just draw my strikes and then combo through. It will be fine, right? I got hit by Prulia, Magnuma, Druid's Impermanent Impulse. So, yeah, that's my first loss in Swiss, which is my only loss in Swiss. After that round, I immediately realized I was exhausted. Earlier than usual. That has barely ever happened in day 1. Like, the format is so mind-draining. So I quickly asked my friends to just go to, like, the food court at the venue, grab some food. I was drinking a crazy tons of water. And then I think the round after, I got some of my energy back. And then for the rest of day 1, I was feeling fine again. It just, unfortunately, the one round I was on stage, I was very exhausted already. Surprised me as well. So that was day 1. Like, it's funny to say, out of the entire day 1, I played, except the one I was on stage, which turned out to be my loss. That's the guy I don't know. Everyone else were either just straight friends, people I know, or friends of friends. And that was the entire day 1. Actually, as well as day 2, I played nearly everyone I know. And the one I don't know, funny to say, were the ones that gave me the losses. Like the first round, my feature match round 6 against Alex Chen. Now I know him. I found out he's on Maliss. I didn't know like who he associate with to build his Maliss deck. So I was like, if I knew he's like, okay, for example, if he's one of the Sacco's spreadsheet customer, then I know they probably not on Allure because the whole group from Lucas Sacco were agreeing to just cut Allure for other things. And if I know they're not on Allure, I can post siding, I can just hold my Lancea into the main phase and not get punished, and I may be able to trade away another card, either Underground or Ghost Arc, right? But if I do know they are on Allure, which I did play some of my local friends who I know they are on Allure, I was shotgunning Lancea in standby phase as quick as possible, because I cannot let them resolve this Allure ever. And that actually happened at like game 3 against top 16 in the backup feature against Lucas Hennigan, which is one of my local friends. I knew he's in the test group with my few of my other friends. They are on Allure together. So I shotgun my Lancea game 3. His opening hand was Terraforming, Allure, Druid Swarm Impulse. And because I shotgun the Lancea, he didn't get to Allure, I completely shut down his hand, he just passed. And I won because of it, because his Impulse and Druid was not enough. So yeah, that was some of the ideas. Like if I knew some of the people I played, I have some additional like outside informations that can help me judging of the usage of some of my cards. And then for the rest of the tournament, I play a lot of known players, good known players, people like Pac, people like Jib. I play both of them, and then obviously you guys saw me play AD and Charlie on feature. And after that, I will say Maliss as a deck. I personally, well, obviously I still hate it, but I personally agree this is the best deck of the format. However, a big however. First of all, the deck has some consistency problem, which I don't think it can be solved in the big background of Maliss Mirrors. Because if you do, you give up your edge in Maliss Mirror, which is your hand traps. But if you don't, you risking yourself to just be lucky. You force yourself to be lucky to do well because you're more likely to break. So, in order to do well with Maliss, in order to actually perform Maliss to be the best deck, you need to be both lucky and good at the deck. Not gonna lie, I will say, after rewatching some of my feature match performance, revisiting, remembering some of my performance like outside feature, I wasn't too satisfied with my own performance as well either. Partially because I was mind drained, I was exhausted. Partially because like I said, I was on Pure Ryzeal for a while. Fiendsmith Ryzeal was still not the best, not my most familiar deck to play this event, which is familiar enough that I'm confident to play it. And I was still making like slightly mistakes, misjudges, some more optimal lines I could go to that play better into things or into combination of things. Like I have better ways even against Nib and Perm, like against AD in that game 3. I could just go void. I could just go battle phase first after putting the damage on board, right? And then there are like things. I was like constantly aware of like Fuwa or even double Fuwa. That's why some people question me like, why do I still go ice into sword with Requiem Moment boarding the finals when I have an ashing hand for their Fuwa? Because reason is simple. It could be a double Fuwa. And there are things like that. There are things I did well, which I admit it. But there are definitely still a lot of things I don't think I did well. And I think it's funny to say there's still room to improvement, even for me playing the deck. And that also applied to, I would say, majority of my Maliss opponents. Because Maliss now is such a combo-heavy, complicated deck that I don't think I played anyone who can say they played the deck perfectly. And whoever could potentially say that to themselves that I played against were simply not lucky enough. Like, I'm confident saying Jib and Pack are the few Maliss pilots who's able to say they can play the deck as perfectly as they can. But they end with both be unlucky and break game 1 and pass to me. And that's how I just like won relatively easily against both of them. And in a vacuum, Maliss is the best deck right now, but it's so impossible to play it perfect enough to make it best. And this is like, right now we're in a format, this also applied to when I was in OCG. Alliance Inside formats in general feels like whenever you play against your opponent, you and your opponent just like fist fighting on a log, and then there's like a river down below. You either one side get knocked out first, or someone made a mistake, slipped, and just fall into the river down below. And we're constantly playing in that kind of settings. This is how this current format is. There's just a lot of grind, a lot like heavy punishments for making mistakes. But the decks are so complicated, you will make mistake. And at the end, I was just like, if I get to play this tournament again, multiple times again, I think I'll still go with this. This is still like what I'm more comfortable with. Even I know Maliss is the better deck. If I play Maliss, I don't think I can even day 2. I wasn't lucky enough and at the same time good enough with that deck. Like, hell, in my feature match, you see me join Lurie Lacrima a couple times with ice. So I was like, I was actually normal summoning either Lurie Lacrima and then special ice after to make sure both engine go through, that I don't just only play one engine if my ice gets stopped. So there's that. So the entire tournament, it was fine. It was fun. It was just a little bit outside, like different than my prediction. That I wasn't expecting this way less Fiendsmith variants existing in the whole venue. And I'll say I appreciate everyone who gave me support. I do I am very satisfied with the weekend. I had a very fun weekend. I get to be like the final boss of the whole room for Charlie for him to win the event, and then maybe now time to start learn Mitsu Ryzeal a bit more, and time to get prepared for that matchup a little bit more. And that being said, I know this is a long video, and this is a Fiendsmith variant decks. So I would appreciate if our favorite Josh Schmidt can have like maybe watch this, maybe have a reaction video, maybe just torture his viewers for the next 2 hours on stream for this long movie, whatever can happen, right? So that'll be nice. And now you pretty much at the end of the video, you finishing it here. Essentially, this whole video is a big spreadsheet of my Fiendsmith Ryzeal for YCS Providence. So please send $500 to my PayPal by the end of the day. Thanks. That being said, hope you liked the video, and hope I will bring more content to everyone in the future. Next step will be WCQ, and I'll see everyone there. Goodbye.